Now we can do another LSAT logic game. We're going to use test number 59 that was administered in December 2009 and is available from lsac.org. We're going to do the second game, which is questions 6 through 10, and a museum curator is arranging 7 photographs. Fence, gardenias, hibiscus, iris, katydid, lotus, and magnolia, and a gallery in accordance with the photographer's requirements. Well, I think if you look at this shirt, with the exception of fence, we've got everything covered. The paintings are arranged in order 1 through 7 according to the following conditions. As soon as we see these words italicized, we realize that the nerds are messing with us. They're trying to mess with our working memory. So even though these are familiar, beautiful flowers, we still don't want to use our working memory when we can use it for other things, so we're just going to use alphabetization. We're trying to reduce the working memory that we waste reading these italicized words. That's what the nerds have learned from cognitive psychologists. So we know that G is immediately before K. So we put a little sketch here. And then H is somewhere before K, but it is not the first picture. I and L must be next to each other. So I is here, L is here, or is it the other way around? We really don't know, so we don't decide that. And M must be one of the first 3 photographs. And F must be either first or 7th. I know I said I shouldn't read these words, but the nerds were nice people. F is fence, and fence is on the end. So we'll remind ourselves that it's one of those 2 places. Now we're going to let the nerds teach us about the game as we go through the first question and eliminate answers according to the conditions. We'll see which one of those situations their nerds are going to let us use. First of all, G must be immediately before K, and if we look at answer A, it's not. So that's wrong right away. G is before K in B, and in C, and in D, and in E. H must be somewhere before K, but cannot be first, and all of a sudden answer B, H is first, so that won't work. And H is before K in each of the other answers. I and L must be next to each other, and if we look at answer D, they're separated, so answer D won't work either. Now we're down to C and E, and F must be either the first or 7th, and if we look at E, fence is 2nd, it's not first or 7th, so E is no good. C is our answer. The nerds are nice people. C gives us I, and then L, and then M, and then H, and then G, K, and F. So we've got this right here, we've got this one of the first 3, and we've got these 2 right next to each other. It's nice to see what a right answer looks like. Now, question 7. If I is immediately before G, well, look at what we have here. We don't want to admit where we are, but we'll just put I immediately before G, which is immediately before K, and now, oh, L is immediately next to I, and then we have H somewhere up here, and we know it's not first, and then we know that M is somewhere in the first 3. But we could also have F at the end, couldn't we? It's a pretty messy situation, but if we think about it in the world of could be, must be, it's actually a straightforward question. It says, which one of the following could be true? Well, M is all over the place up in the front, isn't it? We don't know where it is. Answer E. It could be true that M is third. We'll put M here. We'll put fence here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everything works. And the answer is E. We don't have to tell nobody about the other 4 wrong answers. Question 8. Where each photograph is hung is fully determined if which of the following is true. This is going to force everything, so it's probably a rule and a position that's very forced. Let's look at the answers. What if we put G in fourth? We could slide this over here, and we could put, we could put G in fourth, we could put K here, and we could put IL here, and then what do we do with M and H? We don't really know, and that's why it's not forcing everything. What if we put H second? Well, if we put H second, we could do this situation here, but M could be first and F could be last, couldn't it? So we don't really know about that situation. Then, what if we put I second? Well, if we put I second, L could be first, or L could be third, and M could be first, so we don't know about that situation. And now, what if L is first? Oh, look at this. It's in the original sketch. If we just switch this around, if we put L first, I has to be second, M has to be in the first 3, and then F has to be last, and the HGK thing is forced, and it was right in front of us if we just played with our original sketch, and it was a forcing position right on the end with a block that was determined. Question 9. If M is second, all right, now they're going to give us a situation. Well, M is second, and now what happens? What happens is we've got a couple of blocks here. We have this GK block and we have this IL block. That won't work up here. So let's put F up here because that's a pretty good situation if we're going to have something at the end, but we don't know where the other blocks are going to be. Which of the following cannot be true? Now, we could look at all of the 5 answers and find 4 of them that could be true, or we could find out what cannot be true. The first thing we notice is the answers are all about H and G. So here's H and G. They're all about those 2 people. And then it has H third, H fourth, and H fifth. And we've got these little blocks. If we put H third, then we could put the blocks in 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. That would be great. If we put the H in 5, we can put the blocks here and the blocks here. This would be the GK block. This would be the IL block. But why did I skip 4? Because 4 was in the middle of 3 and 5. And so if I put H in 4, then I have no block here, and then I've got 3 things where only 2 things can work. What we had is we essentially had a sliding block that will slide between 3, 4, and 5, but 4 is always going to be blocked off, and 3 and 5 are equivalent answers. This is a very common situation that you find when you have a block that can slide, and we look for the middle of the sliding block. So H cannot be in 4. We found it by making 3 and 5 turn into equivalent answers, and 4 was the one that was different. Question 10. Which of one of the following, if substituted for the condition that H must be hung somewhere before K but cannot be first, so they want the same rule but they don't want to tell it to you that way, would have the same effect in determining the arrangements of the photographs? So we've got to have the same results, just different words. What if they told us if F is 7th, H is 2nd? Well, no, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case because H could be 3rd, could be 4th. We could do a lot of different things. That won't give us the same rule. B is very attractive. G is somewhere after H, and either F or M is first. Well, it looks very possible, doesn't it? G after H and F or M is first. But wait a minute, we could put I and L first, and it wouldn't have the same rule about H not being first and right before K. They had to get a lot of information in here, and so C doesn't tell us much. H is somewhere between first and sixth. That doesn't tell us the same rule. But because they had to tell us all of this information in the only one sentence to do it, they used an editor's footprint. They used a comma to get all the information into answer D. Unless H is second, it must be somewhere between M and G. Unless it's second, it must be between M and G. That will force it up in front of K because it's G before K. And then H could be second, in which case it wouldn't necessarily be between M and G, which is why they had to tell us that, because M could be third, and so they had to constrain it as much as they possibly could. So don't be surprised that when they give you a confusing, complicated rule, that the answer that relates to that rule that's substitute for it is also complicated. Testing for the public, nonprofit since 1985, nobody makes things easier.